One destroyed the piano. The other set the stage on fire. One created romanticism. The other destroyed 80s rock.
Frédéric Chopin and Kurt Cobain.
Two different worlds, the same state of mind. Chopin turned melancholy into the foundation of romanticism. Cobain did the same with the alienation of Generation X. Both created music for people who felt like they never truly fit in.
And both completely redefined their instruments. Chopin rejected empty virtuosity, music designed only to impress audiences with speed and technical perfection. Instead, he made the piano sound intimate, almost like a human voice. Unlike Cobain, Chopin received classical training. But despite his brilliance, he hated music that felt emotionally empty. Cobain did the same thing with the guitar. As the frontman of Nirvana, he turned distortion, feedback, and the quiet, loud dynamics of grunge into the sound of an entire generation. Raw emotion mattered more than technical perfection ever could. The real earthquake came with Nevermind.
That album did the impossible. With more than 30 million copies sold worldwide, the album transformed grunge from underground noise into a global phenomenon. More than 30 years after Cobain's death, Nirvana is no longer just a band. It became a symbol of rebellion that never disappeared. Chopin came from a completely different world. Born in Poland and later forced into exile in Paris, he spent the second half of his life unable to return to his homeland. That longing became the emotional core of his music. Just like Cobain, he turned isolation into art. There were no middle states in their music. It was either absolute calm or violent attack. Chopin could write delicate, ethereal nocturnes, only to follow them with dark and aggressive scherzos. Cobain used the exact same formula, a soft melody in the verse, suddenly exploding into a distorted wall of rage. You can hear it in songs like Lithium or Heart-Shaped Box. The same emotional swing Chopin built into his sonatas. Music built on extremes, but behind those sounds was real physical suffering. Chopin spent years battling illness, weak, fragile, constantly exhausted. Cobain suffered from chronic stomach pain that doctors could never fully explain. He admitted that the physical discomfort pushed him towards self-destructive escapes meant to numb the pain. For both artists, music became a way to escape bodies that constantly betrayed them.
Neither of them wanted to become a product, and yet, both did. Publicly, they rejected fame. Chopin avoided massive concert halls. Cobain hated the image of the rock star and the machine that turned rebellion into something sold in shopping malls. But that was only half the truth. In reality, both men were obsessive architects of their own success. Chopin carefully built his reputation and connections in Paris. Cobain, despite all the punk ideals, desperately wanted Nirvana to break through. He obsessively refined the sound of the album that would eventually make the band famous. But once fame finally arrived, it became a cage neither of them could escape. The more they withdrew from the world, the more the world became obsessed with them. The only known photograph of Chopin, taken in 1847 using the daguerreotype process, shows a face transformed by disease. To capture the image, he had to remain perfectly still for several long seconds, something extremely difficult in his weakened condition. Chopin most likely hated the photograph. It exposed the physical fragility he spent his entire life trying to hide behind elegance and control. They died too young. Chopin was only 39. Cobain joined the tragic 27 Club in 1994. Their funerals became public expressions of grief. Thousands gathered in Paris to say goodbye to Chopin. In rainy Seattle, crowds of Nirvana fans mourned Cobain like the end of an era. The world had lost more than musicians. Death turned both of them into myths. One became the symbol of romanticism. The other brought rock music back to something raw, honest, and dangerous. They destroyed the music that came before them. 2 centuries, the same story. 200 years later, the Chopin competition still captivates millions around the world. More than 30 years after Cobain's death, Nirvana still feels alive in modern culture. Their music never became a museum piece. It still shapes the culture around us. Genius refuses to stay in the past. If you want more stories like this, subscribe.